Hey fellow gardeners, Dawn here from Seasonal Designs. It is time for my August garden tour and I hope you enjoy. I'm just kind of coming off the back patio of our house. And it is early this morning. We had some fog. It's very humid this morning again. The bed here in front of the greenhouse, my annual bed. Oh, there's a hummingbird that's there. Let me see if I can be steady and zoom in. I'm hoping you can see him. He's on the salvia, the mystic blue salvia, actually. Oh, and there comes the second one. Oh, and now they're off. There are 3 dahlias there, and I started them early in the greenhouse, and these were blooming by June. And so they've been blooming for, well, let's see, June, July. It is now the beginning of August. So they've been blooming for a while, just throwing them out. See, I have a few I have to deadhead in there, but really loving the way this turned out this year. We'll take a look at it from the other side as well. And the beds over here, you know that corner here right on the left? That is the stuff we planted this year. And then at about, let's see, gosh, we planted this year too. Look at how much this has grown. So from about right here, right in front of the grass, kind of around, all of this here we planted this year, and it is really starting to fill in, really, like you can barely tell the difference, which is nice. You can see that autumn moorgrass right in there is starting to, you know, get its soft plumes on. It's not going to get super tall, which is nice. Uh-oh, here comes the sun. I'm going to have a shadow now. Kind of mixed in with the allium now. Salvia is done. Bobo hydrangea is looking marvelous back there with the allium. It's a summer beauty allium. You can see the nepeta. I don't know, remember early in spring, like this was just gorgeous. Early June, this view right here was spectacular with the nepeta and the salvia. Was so pretty, but it's so interesting how it all changes. So then we had to go in and we had to cut the nepeta back, and I told you guys that it would flush again, and you can see that it is not as intense as the first flush, but definitely blooming again. The Stakey's was glorious this year, and that I cut back as well. That is a prolific reseeder, so if you don't want that going everywhere, cut that back. And we'll just kind of pop over here to this side. You can see the coneflowers there in the prairie are blooming. So right along the edge there. My fig has, I think, rust, but it has a lot of figs on it. And I'm hoping that they are going to ripen up. I mean, there's a ton of figs. Look at all of them on that branch. And then there's a couple more branches here. Oh, Peter's honey fig, that's what this one is. And then I have my coffee cups plant right there. And taking a look at this bed here from this side. Really trying to make it a bit more cohesive. So dahlias in the center, mystic blue salvia tucked in with it. Let me see if I can get a close-up here. The hummingbirds are all over this mystic blue salvia. And then you drop down, there's some Pinot Noir coleus, that dark foliage. And then the sweet potato vine. And then pockets of sweet alyssum, superbenia. There's a few pockets of the petunia that you can see, but that sweet alyssum and the sweet potato vine kind of are ruling the show here at the bottom. And I think we'll just kind of get you a side view here of what's going on in this bed. Here comes that sun again. So here, this is the new bed. You can see things are a little further behind. I'm going to cast a shadow for a second. All right. You can see this is a little further behind the stuff that's been in for a year already. Pixie Meadow Bright, really fresh right here. Moonshine Yarrow is fresh right here. So all of this is a little further behind what I planted the year before. But by next year, you won't be able to tell that I planted this the following year. And I did that because I really couldn't see what was going on, because the prairie in normal years gets very, very tall, much taller than this. We're in a drought here. So for instance, the purple coneflowers you see there, those are maybe at my knee. Normally they're about at my chest. So everything is very stunted this year due to the lack of rain. You can see we have the shade curtains up in the greenhouse. We got those up this year. I think we'll be using them probably all of July and all of August. And then we can either slide them over or we can take them down. Super easy to put up and down. You can see my flax is still blooming there. That pop of purple. Carl Forster grasses that I have tied up. They were getting a bit floppy, which is so interesting because they're in full sun. Meanwhile, these that get shaded by my pine tree are not flopping at all. So you can see a lot of stuff is done blooming here. The coreopsis. I'll try to pop up some pictures of what it looked like when the bobos were just green and this stuff was blooming. Now there are other things in the garden that are kind of the star of the show. And really, the prairie is going to be taking over. It is starting to yellow up, and purple coneflowers in here are blooming. This is Echinacea purpurea. The early coneflower, the palladia, that usually blooms in June here, and then the purpurea kind of takes over. But this will really start to color up more and more as August goes on, and that becomes kind of the star of the show out here. And as well as the bobos. So these bobos are going to get just a really pretty shade of pink. And this is their second summer, so these are going to get about 3 feet, well, 3 to 4 feet tall and wide. So they'll get a little bit bigger, and they're just, oh, I love them. They're just so pretty. And this is just really one of my favorite views right now, looking across the prairie into the greenhouse. I just think it's just so serene looking right now. I also thought you might enjoy a few of my favorite photos of the greenhouse as the sun is setting and the flowers around it, as well as a few of my favorite nighttime photos with the glow of the chandelier. Let's head to the front here and head down kind of the front walkway. And so this is our garage here on the right, but you can see I have the Pachysandra that kind of really just stays in its place because it literally is surrounded by the driveway or the walkway. And I think that's pretty handy so it doesn't get out of hand. And so that underplants the entire front walkway. I have a Tina crabapple bush here on the end. Oh, a couple of years ago, this thing had gotten so big over the years that we whacked it to the ground, and I thought, you know, whatever will be, will be. But it came back, and it is beautiful. I do probably need to give it a little bit of a trim, but it gets these beautiful white blooms on its branches in the spring. Really gorgeous. And interestingly enough, when this thing was huge, I think it shaded out all of the roses that I had underneath, and I thought they were dead. I didn't have roses in here for years, and all of a sudden, lo and behold, one of my carpet roses came back. And then if you look down this walkway here, on the left-hand side, I have winter gem boxwood that I keep somewhat shaped. I'm not like a square hedge or super sheared boxwood gal. I love the boxwood, but I like them to have a little softer shape and form. And then on either end of this walkway, I have my hawthorn trees. They're thornless and they got a really nice trim up. They got limbed up last fall and they really just have a beautiful shape on them. Let me see if I can walk this way. They get beautiful little white blooms in the spring, but they're gorgeous, and beautiful foliage in the fall. I've always loved the shape of a hawthorn tree. It goes kind of out and up with its shape, but always loved them. And then you can see on the right, I have my Sum and Substance hostas, and they are blooming right now and looking just so pretty. They kind of have like a light purple bloom on them. But then on the left-hand side, if you can see a little bit in the distance, is the Russian sage, looking just so gorgeous, especially in the morning when that sun just starts to hit it. It almost glows and it catches your eye. I do have Sarcoxy unanimous here on the corners of the house to kind of soften the edges. And then on that corner over there, that is a climbing hydrangea. We'll take a closer look. Annabelle hydrangeas on that corner of the house right over here. But you can see the Pachysandra just keeps going and going, just that beautiful sea of green. This tree here is an ornamental pear. Holds onto its beautiful fall color for a long time. One of the last trees in my yard to lose its leaves. That's the climbing hydrangea, really totally done blooming, but it gets just a gorgeous flush of blooms every year. And we do keep it trimmed back so it doesn't get too out of control. Because as you know, these things can grow up trees and just keep growing and growing. Well, I guess I can show the front porch here. This is where I bring like my summer tropicals out, and they get a little bit of morning sun, but they love the heat and humidity out here. They'll still be done blooming really pretty earlier this year. The Japanese forest grass and the Annabelles. I have a patch of lily of the valley, which just kind of stays put right in its little bed here. Beautiful smell in spring. You can see we've had some drought here this year, so my lawn is a little bit spotty. And if we just turn around and come back, we now have the berm here that divides the front yard from the driveway, which you can see over there. And then the prairie is on my right. You can see I have a big patch of milkweed here. Coneflowers. Looks like a phlox got in there. Some goldenrod. And then this kind of just is the transition from the prairie to sort of the gardens. I have a little path that you can walk through. I've tucked some hostas back in here. Blue oatgrass, the coreopsis, some different grasses, which don't have their plumes yet. Lamb's ear, love this pretty kind of blue-green color. The bellflower here in the front, that purple. And then the echinacea, the coneflowers. rutabaga. Just big patches here. And then that Russian sage. You can see why I love it. Just so pretty. And then this is Coreopsis again, which is done. I believe it's Zagbread is the variety that this here is. And then the dogwoods right behind it. And then just coming down the front walk, we can go across the drive. We have the sort of woodland area over here on the right, and then my big bed here, flanking the drive. And then right behind this big bed is the new area that we planted up in videos. And then if you keep going, you can see my cutting garden and the garden shed. This is the cutting garden area, garden shed. I've got some vegetables out here. This is really kind of a work in progress still. You can see I've got the sombrero red echinacea that I had to dig out and move. I have a video on that because I had the wrong variety unbeknown to me. So we've got a nice little new bed here that I'll be adding some other stuff to next year, probably some purples just to really play off that red. And this whole side of the bed has been there for a while. And it just adds a nice little pop of color here on the way to the shed. Gardenia recovered from its terrible spider mite issue this winter. It literally lost every leaf. I cut it way back, which actually is a good thing. I feel like it was getting spindly, like the leaves, it wasn't as full as I would have liked it to be. I am hoping that it will just continue to do well this year and not have a spider mite issue this winter. Bird bath planters looking fabulous. And got some sweet peas there. I also have a new addition to my figs. This is a brown fig and just picked him up. I think he has like one big fig on him right there. But he has a new home for now. This is my cutting garden area. I cut the sweet peas off the trellis. I cut the zinnias. I used the dahlias. In fact, I see some that I need to trim out of there. Cosmos. I also have tomatoes and zucchini and some Swiss chard in there. And then this bed is truly cutting. I mean, look at my dahlia. Oh my goodness. I really should probably cut him out of here. I'm not even sure you can see him. He's like stuck right in the middle. Oh, this is some of these dahlias are gorgeous. I really do have to get in here and cut. I need to cut some of these snapdragons. I want them to keep blooming. Just some of the gorgeous dahlias. Isn't that a pretty view? So from the raised garden bed, if you walk over here, this is the new garden area that we planted up together earlier this year. And I mean, things are starting to get bigger, which is very encouraging. And some of this stuff is blooming, which I think is just wonderful. Let me see if I can get down here. But things are, I mean, relatively small still. That is Millennium Allium blooming in here. This is the creme brulee coreopsis. We have some of the pretty Marcella echinacea. We have the, this is the cat's pajamas nepeta, same that I have around the greenhouse. I have a different variety of salvia that's blooming, and you can still see I have my fencing up to protect the bubblegum echinacea. Rabbits were just gnawing on the leaves, and so I'm going to leave that up for a bit now. Let's get a little, like this is a Marcella. Look at how wonderful this plant is doing. And this is the one that comes out in that pretty orange, and then it softens to a pink. You can see these here have softened to more of a pinky color. Oh, I just love this one. It's like getting 3 echinacea plants in one. And then over here, the lilies. This is going to be so gorgeous, these pockets of lilies. Scottish Fantasy. Look at that, isn't that pretty? Just imagine a big patch of these blooming. And then I have the hydrangeas that were pretty tiny when we put it, they're still pretty small. But then I have another big patch of these lilies, and I just think when they grow and they spread, they are just going to be so pretty. Now, I do have to talk about this area. Some of you have asked. So this area right here between the new garden and the raised garden area needs to stay open. So we need to be able to get a big tractor in here every spring so that we can have the prairie cut down. And we also need to have access in case we need to do something around the greenhouse. So this, I can never really plant anything here because it's just going to get mowed over every single spring. So what I hope to do is just plant a grass in here. And you know, this is like a strip of the old prairie that was here. And I'm just leaving it up because it was like just chock full of echinacea. So I'm just going to leave that there. But if it gets mowed down, it's fine every spring. So that's why that is open. But I am really looking forward to this bed filling in. Let me just kind of walk over here. We'll give you a look at it from this way. You can see the redbud tree that I put in is really, really looking good. I am so excited to see that thing bloom in spring. That'll be my first spring with it. So really looking forward to it. And then across the way is the bed that has been here for a bit longer. So Echinacea purpurea. This is, I would say wow. This is up to my nose. So that's 4 feet tall. It's a wonderful variety. It's a workhorse. And it just is gorgeous. Big, tall, lovely. Can take drought. I haven't watered the echinacea here in this garden at all, and we're pretty dry here this year. And this is the path that swings around. We're gonna need to get this cleaned up here, but it really kind of divides the bed from the woods. Boy, if I can find a picture of what a hot mess this was just 2 years ago. And then this is the rutabaga that I put a small little patch in here a couple of years ago, and it just spread in, and I really love it. But then the phlox made its way in here on its own, and I actually kind of like it. I don't even know, it's a variety. There's whites, there's dark pinks, there's light pinks, there's pink and white. All right, and if we back up here, and we'll go down the front side of this, whoops. That is Summer Beauty Allium on the corner. Got a ground sedum. Again, I have some Russian sage, Arizona red shades blanket flower here in front. big peony, which is done. Little monarch coming through to say hi. Veronica is, I really need to get in there and cut those spent bloom pads off. I just haven't had a chance. Need to cut back the bee balm as well. It was so pretty this year. It's just a hot, vibrant pink color. I'll see if I can pop a picture up. My Michael Carr container up on its pedestal as it should be, looking really pretty with the Verbena bonariensis in the center. I have a Calibrachoa and, oh, I can't remember the variegated one. I'll pop that up too, the name of that. And then in here, we did a video on, we planted up the delphinium that was grown from seed. And there's several different colors in here. You can see some of them. Oh, look at that one's nice and tall. These will get bigger. So this is their first year, like literally in the ground here. They should get about 3 feet tall by next year. And I think it'll just really fill in that space real nice. This is a catmint as well. This is early bird nepeta. Starts blooming in April. It's really pretty when it blooms. Echinacea purpurea. We make our way over to kind of transitioning into the woodland area. The astilbe blooming so nicely. There's another big patch of that same astilbe. In fact, the one in front that I just showed you came from here because as this grows out of its boundary, especially on the other side into the path, I dig it out and I move it. Free plants, nothing better. I have some white impatiens in here temporarily. Look at the variegation on this. Isn't this so pretty? Oh, when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's perfect for over here. And so this area here, boy, if I can get after this in fall here, I'm going to get rid of all of that bishop's weed. It's invasive. It's terrible. I don't even know where it came from. Probably a transplant from someone's garden. That needs to go. And then we're going to be kind of cleaning this area up and working on what I'll be putting in there. Early in spring, there is some good stuff in there. I have columbine, I have mayapple, so I'm going to have to keep that in mind as well. And then this path just really winds in through the woods. Now this is heading towards the back end of our property where we kind of head down a nice gradual hill. And this back area of the prairie is really covered mostly with grasses. I call it my savanna or my grassland area because it's mostly grasses, little blue stem, big blue stem. and a few other grasses in here with just a few pockets of the Echinacea purpurea and the gray-headed coneflower. And I really love this hillside. Then we also have these big patches of Dahlia purpurea, also known as purple prairie clover. And these are just a great plant for dry, sunny locations. This plant has a deep taproot, which supports really a long-lived plant. And I love it here because it's mixed in with my little blue stem. And earlier this season in June, we had the most glorious patches of lupin that we've ever had. And I wish I would have taken a video of them, but I didn't. So pictures are going to have to suffice, but they were glorious. Well, that is going to be it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. And if you're not already a subscriber, I hope you'll consider subscribing. And I would love it if you would share my channel and my video with your families and friends. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.